pronounce the Chiefs' chances of getting back to a Super Bowl and the Eagles' chances, even though they're still very much alive for the postseason, of repeating as champions, essentially dead here on this Tuesday, December 9th.
Brothers and sisters, it is time for us both to mourn their loss and our loss, and also to celebrate all the good things that we have to cherish, not just our trophy cases full of Eagles Super Bowl memories and Chiefs Super Bowl memories for those who celebrate, but the possibilities to come and the chances that these two teams are not necessarily nearly dead, just Princess Bride mostly dead. So you and I are going to have fun storming the castle today, talking about last night's travesty
and Sunday night's collapse, Sunday night's calamity in Arrowhead. Two performances that really mirrored each other. We're going to get into all of that. We're going to pour one out in a second here. And before we do, if you are joining us for this Italian wake, it's basically an Irish wake, but with two paisans leading the charge here, correct?
Correct. It would be cultural appropriation. I did ask my sons for an Irish pass. And lack of gratitude, they said, no, you can't do Irish humor. So it's an Italian wake, which is the same thing as an Irish wake.
For sure. And if you are joining us, we have a lot of people piling into the room. Great to have you here on this live edition of Between the Hashmarks podcast. In lieu of flowers, please bring something to sip that you let us know in the comments section, or your grievance or complaint about the Eagles or Chiefs. And before we get into it, a little bit of housekeeping. If you enjoy Mike Tanier's firebrand of storytelling, mixing of dad jokes, superhero analogies, analytic deep dives, storytelling, reporting, all of it, make sure you subscribe to the Two Deep Zone on Substack. It's mandatory reading. If you enjoy my insider reporting, my analysis, my insights, subscribe to Between the Hashmarks on Substack. You can check out the Between the Hashmarks podcast on YouTube at my YouTube channel at Matt Lombardo 975. And of course, subscribe, like, and leave us those 5-star reviews and ratings on Apple Podcasts. Those reviews and likes really do help grow the show. So leave those 5-star ratings. We will read them on the podcast each week when we get them. Mike, I think that just about does it for the housekeeping. I want to turn the floor over to you on how you would like to begin this Italian wake for the Eagles Super Bowl chances, because they're probably going to win the division, and the Chiefs Super Bowl chances, who they're probably not going to even qualify for the postseason in the AFC.
Right. There's two different flavors of death. That's a terrible metaphor. There's two different situations that are happening here. We have the Eagles, who are still going to make the playoffs. So we have a zombie Eagles team. Well, let's look at it. You have the Raiders coming up. You've got these two games against this demoralized Commanders team coming up. You're going to get a win along the way. The Cowboys are going to do something stupid along the way. Eagles will win the NFC East. No one feels good about this. It's zombification at this point. As opposed to the Chiefs, less like a zombie, more like a vampire, right? What did you say the NFL? We have 13% with the DVOA analysis. What's the NFL's analysis? The chance that the Chiefs make the playoffs?
Yeah, NFL media has an 11% chance of the Chiefs making the playoffs, according to their playoff odds and playoff scenarios. It just seems like they had the opportunity in front of them a couple of weeks ago when they bought themselves time beating the Colts. They bought themselves 6 additional playoff games. They've now lost 2 of them in a row. Suboptimal to come back from. Not dead as a doornail quite yet, but they do not look like the Kansas City Chiefs. They do not look like the 3-time Super Bowl champion, Patrick Mahomes-led, Andy Reid-led Chiefs, and they might not even get in at 11% chance according to NFL media and 13.5% according to DVOA and FTN Fantasy.
And we will eulogize the Colts a little bit too, but they also have this opportunity. As soon as the Daniel Jones injury happens, you do the math quickly, a playoff spot has opened up. You know, a new opportunity has been put there, and you look at this Chiefs team, it's like, well, this is a chance we could do this. The Texans look at the same opportunity. The Texans come out on top in that game, but we need, especially because we're going to do an autopsy on what happened last night to a degree. I always need a drink before an autopsy, right? That's the thing. That's the thing people who do autopsies do, right? They get drunk. How else do they do it?
Better somebody doing an autopsy than somebody performing surgery.
Yeah. True, they're already dead. How much can you screw it up? You can't re-dead them, so you might as well have a couple drinks if you're a forensics person. That's who does autopsies, right? Forensics person.
A coroner or forensics, somebody in that field.
Quincy was the guy who did it. That's how old I am. So what I got here, let's see, what did I get? Okay, so it's a funeral for a friend. two friends really, like Andy, and they've been, maybe frenemies, whatever. Basil Hayden's toast, which I originally planned to buy just only for special occasions. You can see how that's gone.
A lot of special occasions since you purchased it, huh?
Yeah. Thursday night football, often a special occasion. Who knew?
Yes.
Lions, Cowboys, special occasion. So I poured one out for myself already. What did you get yourself something?
I did. This is not the special occasion scotch, but it is scotch nevertheless. It's
Glenlivet
12-year Glenlivet 12. So still some quality here. And based on how this season has gone for both of them, I'm tempted to just drink it right out of the bottle. But we're going to pour one out both for the Eagles and for the Kansas City Chiefs championship aspirations. They are over and done with, even if the official odds say there's still some hope left. There's not much there. Cheers.
Right. And neither of us can really day drink very much now. So, although you seem to day drink pretty good there. You don't have to leave. You don't have to leave the house again, do you?
I have to walk to the bus stop to get my daughter at about 4:00 and walk back. And that's all I basically need.
A little scotch on the breath when you're going to the bus stop, just like Dad and Grandpa used to have. Perfect. Normally, I'm a shut-in from this time on, working on statistics and stuff like that. Cars in the shop. I got to Uber to the shop, and I got to drive it down Route 70 to get home. So I got to be real careful.
You have your one sip right there.
Yeah, well, it's probably a little bit of water. I think I can get to the end of the podcast, and then famous last word. Trust me, folks, it'll be okay. Okay, I can feel everyone shaming me, so I'm taking one more sip and putting it aside. Anyway.
Yep. I think we start in Philadelphia, right? Because, I just want to start here. Because 2 weeks ago in the Monday morning column, I wrote, after talking to an NFC defensive coach who had played the Eagles this year, asking him what exactly went wrong with this offense. What's the biggest difference with this offense in 2025 versus what we had seen in recent years? And maybe he was right when 2 weeks ago he said that the issue stemmed from the offensive line. Maybe he was onto something. Maybe this has been the problem all season long, and now you have the injuries piling up. Now you have the issues along the offensive line bleeding into your quarterback's pocket presence, not being able to run the ball consistently, effectively enough. And what we're seeing over the last 2 to 3 weeks is the coaching staff is not equipped to adjust and make up for those offensive line concerns. So everybody on the social medias who came out of the woodwork to say, oh, it's not the offensive line, it's the play caller. There's no identity. It's too disjointed. It's Kevin Patullo and nothing else. Well, I think the dam broke last night in SoFi Stadium, and I think you saw just how badly this offensive line is playing and how significantly it's impacting the Eagles.
But you got Lane Johnson out. Dixon was in and out of the game yesterday, and probably has not been playing 100% very few times this year. And you kind of might reach the peak of Mulata's a good ball player, but you reach the peak of what he could do somewhere along the way. And missing Mekhi Becton this year, that was a stealthy loss that you didn't necessarily think about, something that you can go into the offseason and fix. Here's the thing. Is there a soul involved with the offense that you can say is safe, harmless right now? I mean, you can say Southland's done all he can with the guys, but you can't hold him safe, harmless. Totally, I'm not saying fire him, but he's probably could have done better along the way. Who's safe, harmless right now? Anyone?
Maybe Devonta Smith, because it seems like whenever you heave the ball downfield, Devonta Smith brings it down for a big play. But I'm going to take your question and flip it on its ear a little bit here, because people came after me last night when, after the second Jalen Hurts interception, that I suggested maybe, just maybe, it's time to temporarily bench Jalen Hurts for a series, for a quarter, see a different perspective. Maybe you call the game a little bit differently and you carry over what you did with McKee into how you call it with Jalen Hurts. Something isn't working. It's not working.
No. Would you have done that with Josh Allen? If he was struggling, he's struggling. Would you ever say, maybe we need a little Trubisky? Do you say that? Do you think that?
No, but I would say that when C.J. Stroud came back, that offense looked different from a conceptual standpoint based on how they called it before the injury and what they did with Davis Mills when he was in there and how they're calling it now.
Their offense was terrible, and so we'll get to the Texans. Their offense was not good on Sunday night. It really wasn't good the previous week, except after halftime a little bit. There's a place you say Hurts has to play better. Yeah. You want to find opportunities to play better. Balls are bouncing off A.J. Brown's hands last night.
Yeah, and then you had the interception that wasn't that got trapped,
That's
along the turf. A bad
right.
throw. It just seems like the issues along the offensive line and the constant barrage of pressure. It's creating bad habits for him. I don't get the sense he's seeing the field right now. I don't get
Right.
the sense that he's going to progression 2, progression 3. In
Mm-hmm.
his reads. And I'm not saying you sit him for the rest of the year. I'm saying in a
You,
game like the first half, you sit him down. You let him see the game from a different
you
perspective
don't
and see if that
you
changes
don't
things.
do that. You don't do that with any established quarterback. You don't sit a guy down. You create a maelstrom here. You create absolute chaos everywhere. That's not what you do. Okay, not with a Super Bowl winning quarterback, not with anybody who's established. You do that and you blow everything up. And you're doing it kind of again. I'm not saying Hurts played well. There's no one who's not to blame. It was a 4 interception night. There was a weird fumble back. There was all kind of chaos there. Also, balls bouncing off everybody's hands. I think Les wrote a thing, Les Bowen. That's like, the answer in terms of getting this team back on like championship track, not getting back to the playoffs. Right? The answer's not going to be here this year. It's not going to be here during the 2025 season. And the changes need to be significant. And the changes not replace Jalen Hurts because that's not how these things work. The answer is not coming through the door. But then you have to look at all these other things that obviously Patullo, obviously who can you bring in on the offensive line? AJ Brown yesterday had a couple of big plays and a couple of horrendous ones. And it looked like, and it's one of those things where it's like, I think you think of yourself as Jamar Chase or one of those guys. Got to kind of get paid sort of in that ballpark. You act like that ballpark. That wasn't that last night.
No, it wasn't. And it hasn't been in that Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson ballpark for about a month, or
Right.
maybe even longer than that. It seems like ever since the discontent bled public with the Bible verses that were posted on social media, the comments that were made in the Twitch, the Twitch stream that he was on, it seems like that sort of. I'm not going to go so far to say that it fractured the locker room, but I think that it altered, if not his approach, his mentality. And it seems like his mistakes have really been magnified. They've come in really bad spots. They've come in bunches. They've hurt this team. And it just seems like, at least, and I agree with Les Bowen's point here, at least the 2025 Eagles, they're cooked. There's a built-in ceiling. You're going to win the division. You're going to get to hang an NFC East champion banner at Lincoln Financial Field, whatever that's worth, with 2 Super Bowl banners now hanging there. Right. You're gonna wind up getting a team like the San Francisco 49ers coming into town, or you're going to get a team like the Chicago Bears coming into town. You're going to get a team who already beat them in Philly. They're not intimidated by the moment.
You get the Lions. You get the Lions.
You get the
Lions.
Yeah.
Now, of course, the Eagles beat the Lions, but they'll be back. You don't want to have to keep doing that. Right. That was a weird game.
35-mile-an-hour winds, different Lions team now that they've decided to really lean into Jahmyr Gibbs for the first time. Jamison Williams coming on in a way that he wasn't that night. It just seems like there's a built-in ceiling because of whatever's going on structurally and mentally for that offense right now.
Not to go very specific, because a lot of times we were both on limited sleep. Fourth quarter play calling, you get down to the 20-yard line. You throw bomb into the end zone to Brown, and let's call it a 50-50 ball. With A.J. Brown, it should be more of a 65-35 ball. He does have his hands on it, doesn't get it. Then on third down, you throw. I know what they added. Here's what they added. They added empty backfield swing passes on the edge. You try one of those on, I forget if it was Devontae or one of the randos, drops it, and you give the Chargers back the ball with a timeout.
Yeah.
Now, on the one hand, now I hate just being the play call here. Now we can go after fucking Sirianni. Excuse me for my language. Because it looked like the Chargers wound up not needing the timeout. They got into field goal range before they had to use the timeout, et cetera. It's just ew. I don't like that wrinkle because it doesn't look crisp when the Eagles do it. I see teams run that swing pass. It looks crisp. Never looks crisp when the Eagles do it. I don't like it. And the game was full of that. You missed field goal before halftime. Full of this stuff. My takeaway from the Eagles lost that game 6 times last night, and the Chargers lost it 5 times, and the Eagles went 5-6 last night. That's how that felt. And
they
it's
had a chance to win the game with a better throw
better
along the
throw.
sideline to Jahan Dotson or
Right.
slightly different play calling in
Right.
overtime. And I think that if I look at this Eagles team, I think that if you're an Eagles fan, what should disappoint you most is that defense is banging on the doorstep of being a championship caliber defense. They
Right.
create takeaways. They're just ferocious up front. They swarm to the quarterback. They get timely stops. They hold Justin Herbert in that offense to a field goal in overtime. And they're just backed by an offense that if you told me that that's what the Miami Dolphins are trotting out there, or that's
Mhm.
what the Minnesota Vikings are doing, I'd believe you. It's
Right.
just not the same identity. It's not the same mentality. It's not the same temperament, the same identity that they had a year ago.
And to shift gears, we can say a lot of the same things about the Chiefs.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. But before we get to the Chiefs, one more thing. The one thing
Yeah.
that I think that they should do more of is run 12 personnel. Run two
Yes.
tight end sets, because if your offensive line is the concern,
Right.
keep an extra tight end in to block. Keep Saquon Barkley in the backfield to chip. Run two running back sets and have Tank Bisbee in there as a chipping blocker, or Will Shipley. They run 12 personnel, the 11th most time in the league. I feel like with the issues they have, knowing what they are, that should be higher, right?
I'm shocked they run it that often. And part of his Calcaterra doesn't really have a role in the offense. And I don't want to single him out because he's like just supposed to be a role player. But wouldn't it be great to have that other tight end who was like a guy?
Yeah.
Whether he was a 2 million pound guy like the guys the Steelers have, or whether it's, oh, that's Dawson Knox over there, or somebody like that, where it's like, oh, you can weaponize him to a degree. Something where you say, well, the 12 personnel has a point besides whatever the point of it is now. Because again, the Eagles, they're never going to be using their slot receiver the way they're currently structured. You might as well be in 12 as often as possible. But I love that. I don't want to see this empty backfield that much anymore. Saquon is a threat even when he's not playing well. The run game's a threat. Read option, which again doesn't get run anymore. Justin Herbert can run a read option. He can do that in overtime. Eagles don't do it very much. These are threats you want. You don't want to say, hey, there's 5 people spread out on the field. Only 2 of them are ever going to get the ball because that's how we do things.
Right. And it seems to be how they do things and how they've done things for at least the past 2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
If you're going to do that, at least set your quarterback up for time in the pocket to go and do that. If it's just going to be A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith in the passing game and sprinkle in some Dallas Goedert from time to time, put the 2 tight ends out there. Leave them blocking. Buy the extra time. Protect your quarterback. Hell, go to more high percentage, quick throws, swing passes in space to Saquon Barkley, quick outs to Dallas Goedert, the way you see some teams utilize their tight ends, and forget trying to get chunk plays at the start of drives. Forget airing it out to A.J. Brown 30 yards down the field in the first play from scrimmage just because you want to involve him. Kind of get some momentum going and move the ball down the field methodically rather than with the explosives.
How come swing passes to Barkley never work?
Do they try him enough? I see them so rarely.
It's rare because usually the short pass to Barkley is hurts his back. He's looking. He doesn't like what he sees. Still doesn't like what he sees. A little upset with it. And he turns to Barkley at that point where whoever those underneath defenders in zone are like, oh, okay, here it comes. Everybody get over there. It's Barkley. That's how it looks. And you can see, and again, it's play calling, some of it's philosophy, but like that don't happen in San Francisco. These short passing oriented coaches, these sort of McVay school coaches, that swing pass comes out, there's like authority, there's like a plan behind it, there's good blocking in front of it, which I don't necessarily think Brown and Smitty are like the best blockers. Yeah. And you wind up getting these 7, 8, 9 yard gains, which move sticks, sustain drives, all the things the Eagles have been struggling to do, and still were struggling to do last night.
For sure. And now let's turn the page to the Chiefs, where I think that what you saw on Sunday night, even if they aren't officially dead, I think that you saw the death of their killer instinct. It certainly looked like the Mahomes magic that had bailed them out so many times over the past decade kind of ran aground. And then they happened to run into arguably the most dominant and ferocious defense in the league in the Houston Texans. Right. So we can talk all we want about the drop passes and the 3 and outs and coming up short on a 4th down. They probably shouldn't have gone for it late in the game anyway, with Andy Reid going into desperation mode. I think the Texans deserve a lot of credit for rising to the moment, especially defensively. Some of the hits that sent messages, some of the pass breakups deep downfield in the secondary. They rose to the occasion, and they understood the assignment. They went out and got it done.
Best edge rushers tandem in the league, probably. Best two cornerbacks in the league, probably. Also have very good depth at the cornerback position, so they take away a lot of your solutions. Even when you're the Chiefs, they can take away a lot of their solutions. I think we're gonna talk more about the Texans' positivity here, but this is a funeral.
Yes.
We do not talk about the perpetrator. We talk about the victim. The reminder here is Killer Instinct was absent against the Texans. Killer Instinct was absent against the Cowboys. Killer Instinct was absent against the Broncos a couple weeks ago, a very similar opponent. The Bills are the Bills. That's a different whole thing there. It was absent against the Eagles in week 2. So that thing isn't there anymore for them. I was saying, like whatever that magic is, it is not firing this year. Waiting for it to come back is not. It's not good analysis. It wouldn't be good wagering. It's not a good way of looking at the team.
The light switch, it broke. You tried to flip the light switch a couple of too many times, and you shorted out the fuse. But, the one thing that I noticed, and Chris Collinsworth alluded to this a little bit on the broadcast, they look like a team that all of the extra football has caught up to them, right? Because you think back to Patrick Mahomes' first season as a starter in 2018, they've gone to at least the AFC Championship game every year that Mahomes has been the quarterback. They've added 20 extra games over that span.
Yeah.
And Patrick Mahomes is a little bit older, as some folks inside the league have told me that at this point, coaches understand Patrick Mahomes maybe just a little bit more. Do you close that margin for error just a little bit? Guys look just a little bit older. Age starts to catch up with you. They haven't drafted all that well at the skill positions. They certainly haven't ever decided that they're going to commit to the running game enough to bail them out when they tend to be one-dimensional with Mahomes in the passing game. It just seems like all the extra football and not buttressing Mahomes well enough is coming home to roost for them.
Extra football, always picking 30th to 32nd in the draft. So it's like they've drafted okay when you start grading on that curve. Never being able to do a lot in free agency because you have to pay Mahomes and the other top 5 guys there, which is, again, a typical problem for a team that's won a bunch of Super Bowls. It's a hard to overcome problem. And of course, they had 3 offensive linemen out this week. So it was, I was talking on the shots thing. This is a terrible matchup. That Texan team is a terrible matchup, but there aren't going to be any good matchups coming. I mean, obviously the Titans are coming up for them, so that's a good matchup. What does a soft reboot for this team look like to you?
Well, I think it starts with they need to figure out who the next Travis Kelce is. Right?
Oh, that's easy.
Is Noah Gray the guy? I guess he's the guy, right? That's.
I mean, you're not going to get another Travis Kelce, but who's the play? You get a playmaker at tight end or somebody to fill that role in the offense. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you need to do that. I think you need to go out and commit legitimate resources to a running back. I think you need to figure out whether it's drafting early. I know philosophically we probably disagree a little bit on the value of running backs, but when you're a team that's on the cusp, we've seen it with Saquon Barkley being somebody that puts you over the top. We saw, Derrick Henry, it collapsed around them a little bit, but we saw the impact that he makes. It seems like they need to get a running game to complement what they do, and they probably need to get a little bit better at linebacker, I would think, right?
They've had some age. That's another position of age, I think.
Yeah.
Right. But it's like you don't necessarily need Saquon Barkley, but you need like Kyle Monangai or something like that, where it's like maybe drafting a first-round running back is wacky because, again, you might be looking for that tight end or something. But like draft like 5th, 6th, and 7th rounders and really get out there because it's kind of like it's like, it's Pacheco again. It's like we know Pacheco. He's going to get you 3 yards on a 2-yard run off enough, so that's kind of helpful. Hunt your backup. You don't have that. If you remember late era Andy Reid in Philadelphia, you got the same thing where it was sort of like an overcommitment to superhero ball. Both with late McNabb, who was kind of doing nothing but scrambling and launching bombs, kind of like a earlier evolution of the Mahomes, or when Vic came here and you had a year or two of scrambling and launching bombs until that ran out of steam. Whatever you do in terms of running back, tight end, getting another lineman, they drafted a lineman this year. somebody has to be in the room with Andy to be like, simmer down and play normal ball a little. Yeah. You can have this Mahomes chaos magic for the 2-minute warning or when you're down 7 or whatever. Try normal ball a little bit. Andy does not like normal ball.
No, and I don't know that he has the personnel and the horses to play normal ball, at least from a running game perspective right now. And, not this Monday, but last Monday's column, I broke down. I talked to executives around the league about what's hurting the teams that lost over Thanksgiving weekend. And an AFC scouting director, part of his answer about the Chiefs was the running backs have been average. But now the biggest problem is Mahomes is getting too loose with his fundamentals and mechanics, trying to be a highlight reel rather than making the consistent throws as a dynamic producer that he's always been, unquote. Go get a better running game. And I think that you also need to find somebody other than Xavier Worthy and Rashee Rice, get that third bailout option at receiver. And you got to kind of get Mahomes to function within an offense rather than trying to be the playmaker every snap.
See, I think the future holds Rice becoming in the role of the offense to Kelsey. Yeah. He becomes the go-to guy, and your tight end becomes a blocker because you're never going to get another Kelsey. And yeah, you get that other outside threat to be whatever. But yeah, you don't get that sequential, it's just Mahomes in the pocket. He's just delivering passes over the middle. It's sequential. They're moving down the field. You don't get much of that. I think that requires getting someone in the coaching staff who Andy listens to, who isn't – there's a lot of all the old friends are there, like Nagy and those guys are there right now, and sort of Andy does what he wants. Get the Bieniemy back or get whoever you need back in there to be like, let's try this other thing. I'm going to be the voice you're listening to so we can do this different thing. Because it's still going to be wobbly with the cap. It's still not going to be great with a cap situation, It's still going to be, it might be Chris Jones. You're not going to be able to go in there and make these wholesale changes. Do something at the structural level that revitalizes everything else around them.
And the problem is that when you look around the rest of that division, the Broncos have stacked some pretty solid draft classes the last couple of years. The Chargers have done a really nice job of leaning into their identity of running first, letting Justin Herbert make the plays when they're there. The defense with Jesse Minter has become one of the talks of the NFL. They drafted really well. The path back to being at the top of the mountain has gotten a lot more difficult for them.
Right, it is, and the Bills are still there. Although we'll talk about that a little bit. But we have to emphasize once again, we're talking about the vampire, and the stake is still hovering over, over the vampire. It's not a corpse; it's a vampire. Chargers next week. The Chiefs can kind of get themselves into a better position. It's fascinating how much else has to break right for them right now, and one of the other teams in the same boat as them, and again, this is a wake for a couple of teams. Baltimore Ravens are now on outside looking in, another 6-7 team, another perennial powerhouse, and they have a better chance of the playoffs because the Steelers could mess up, but they're in some deep trouble as well.
They really are. And, you look at them, you can point to the Isaiah Likely terrible call in the end zone on the incompletion at the end of the game that probably should have been a touchdown. If replay doesn't jump in there and it's ruled a touchdown, we're talking about Baltimore a lot differently today.
We're talking about the Steelers. The Steelers are in the slot then.
Yes, which would have been more expected based on how the Steelers have played over the last month and certainly how they played against Buffalo at home the prior week. But you asked me on the breakdown, what's the biggest issue with the Ravens? And outside of that terrible call, I think it's third down. I think it comes down to their inability on third down when you look at against the Steelers, 7 of 8, 39% in the red zone, 2 of 6 in the red zone against the Cincinnati Bengals the prior week. 3 of 10 on third down, 1 of 2 inside the red zone. So they barely got inside the 20-yard line. Great between the 20s, great on first and second down. When you're in those third down situations, it's just not working well, which is kind of stunning given how mobile and dangerous and lethal Lamar Jackson is with his legs, and because you have Derrick Henry in the backfield next to him.
Agreed. That's one thing. And that's one of those things where you can focus down on it. So we're not talking at this, fire Harbaugh or whatever you're doing. Yeah, third downs really on both sides of the ball. I think more on offense. On defense, 19 sacks this entire season. That was a game where you had a 42-year-old quarterback with a cast on his arm and a bandage on his nose, and he is comfortable in the pocket the entire game. where you see nobody winning on the edge. And you cannot keep doing that because that gave Joe Burrow an opportunity, and now it gives Aaron Rodgers an opportunity. And next week, it's going to give Joe Burrow an opportunity, and Drake May can destroy you when he can just sit there, and he's been able to just sit there. And you're not exploiting these. And that was one of the margins for difference. Third down was the other margin of difference in the last couple weeks. And then you talked about the Isaiah Likely, the number of what just happened, please?
Yeah.
Because that's where I look at and say, this Ravens team, like I can look at the Eagles and say, nah, there's nothing out there that's like hasn't gone their way enough. Like whatever is not going their way, it's balanced out. Say the same about the Chiefs. What happened with Likely? The previous week, that was a fumble, but come on, offensive pass interference a couple weeks ago. What? The penalty, and it was a leverage penalty. I think technically that's true. You give the Steelers who just settled for a field goal free downs. The number of times these bang, well, that'll never happen again plays keep happening to the Ravens is stunning.
It's remarkable, really, especially when you look at, especially on the defensive side of the ball. That was supposed to be the biggest strength of that team going in. How often do we talk about the secondary being the most talented secondary in the sport? Mark Green got rave reviews coming out of training camp in the preseason. They felt so good about their front seven. They traded Adebayo away a week before the deadline to the Chargers. Hey, we don't need a pass rusher. We'll take a draft pick for later on to keep building. It just hasn't worked out for them. And, I thought one of the things that really jumped off for me was they struggled getting off the field against the Steelers. They gave up a 12-play drive. They gave up an 8-play 50-yard drive. They gave up a 6-play 90-yard drive. Just these methodical, long marches down the field. A defense that can't get home anyway, they're sitting there, grabbing their hips. They're gassed, man. And it just they couldn't get off the field. They couldn't create turnovers. They can't create sacks.
They can't get off the field because they can't rush the passer, so they blitz. And you're giving Aaron Rodgers the chance, and it's like your blitz is getting picked up. It's not like the blitz is like creating pressure. It's just creating one-on-ones up the sideline. And I'm looking at the personnel. I know Matabuke has been hurt, so they're really not getting anything up the middle. But I'm not seeing Van Noy. Okay, that's an older player. Okay, I'm not seeing, is Mike Green active? I haven't heard his name since the draft. I don't know who's supposed to be out there generating this pressure, but whoever it is, they're not getting the job done.
No, and you talk about offensively, 21st in the league in third downs, 37.7%, just a few ticks above teams like the Dolphins, the Raiders, the Jets, and the offensive juggernaut known as the Philadelphia Eagles. Not good. You need to move the chains, right? You need to sustain drives, especially in what are effectively playoff games. And that game on Sunday, it affected their playoff chances, the Steelers' playoff chances, them losing combined with Cincinnati's own loss effectively, dashes a lot of hopes about the Bengals. They just bad news all around. Can't move the ball in Baltimore.
Can't move the ball in Baltimore. One reason I didn't focus on their third down problems is because after watching the Eagles for a while, 21st sounds good. Like you were reading those off. Like you said something like, I'll say they were only 3 of 10. It's like 3 of 10. 3 of 10 sounds pretty damn good. It's obviously bad, but that's where you're at with the Ravens. But you mentioned that. But the most cataclysmic thing in the AFC playoffs is the Daniel Jones injury, which just sort of restructured everything. I'll just put this up here right now. I was talking to Aaron. We do a podcast. Aaron Schatz, the inventor of DVOA, and when he does the projections, obviously when your starting quarterback gets hurt and the backup comes in, you have to adjust the projections for that. He has a standard projection that he normally puts in, but he juiced it a little bit because you're not going from Daniel Jones to like your basic Mitch Trubisky or Tanner McKee. You're going to who? Riley Leonard's hurt? An injured Riley Leonard or Brett Rippon or Philip Rivers?
One-eyed Aaron Richardson?
One-eyed Jack. Aaron Richardson. I'm sorry, I keep looking. I don't know how.
I can't take the Philip Rivers thing seriously. I can't.
It's not. It's not
He's flying
serious.
in there for a workout. I feel like it's almost like a birthday reunion bash that somebody was sitting around in a boardroom, right, in Indianapolis on Monday thinking, hey, how can we change the narrative? How can we get people excited again? How can we feel good about ourselves? And the intern raised their hands. Hey, let's call Philip Rivers. He has 10 kids. He might want to get out of the house. Bring him in. Let him work out. We'll see what happens.
Mayor's got 15 kids. He wants to get out of the house, clearly. He wants to go to St. Elmo's, which doesn't overserve, just to make that very, very clear here, folks. And by the way, speaking, not to go off track, did you hear who's coming in? Old friend of ours for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for a workout?
Who's flying into Tampa Bay?
Jason Pierre-Paul.
Oh.
Talk about random injuries that I never know whether I should really be making a joke about or not. Yeah, they're not bringing him in to fire the cannon. It's been 15 years, folks. Get over it. It's been 15 years. It's been 15 years. Get over it. Anyway, so these chances of the Colts making the playoffs per the analytics are still 26.5%.
Wow.
26.5%. Tiebreakers that they have out there, the chance that they chaos win one over the Jaguars. And that's where it is, because the third playoff spot, the third wildcard spot in the AFC right now, the Colts are at 8-5. Everyone else involved is a 6-7. Okay, so the Buffalo Bills are the first playoff spot. That's almost guaranteed. It feels like that at that point. The second playoff spot is either the Jags or the Texans. The third is the Colts sitting there with the Chiefs. Whoever comes out of the AFC North, either the Ravens or the Steelers, and the Chargers, and that's been boosted a little bit, or like the freaking Dolphins.
But here's the problem. Here's the problem. They have the toughest remaining strength of schedule at 692. Their opponents have a 692 winning percentage. Are you getting one win out of this? Seahawks, Jaguars, 49ers, Texans with a sacrificial lamb potentially in Philip Rivers. You couldn't find a actual like functioning sacrificial lamb that you got to like call Philip Rivers and say, do you want to have your birthday dinner in town? Do you want to hang around for a while and maybe play if I'm Rivers? Hell no, I want no part of those fences. I want sub-zero part of what the Seahawks are doing on defense. I don't want to stare across the line of scrimmage at the Houston Texans. I want no part of that. Robert Saleh's got to be licking his chops about potentially playing a 44-year-old quarterback who couldn't move 5 years ago.
Well, and that's it. The 26.5% is, do you see one win? Well, one win's all it takes. So you have a hard time seeing. The Jaguars are the one where I look at, like, I can see the win, the chaos agent win there. And that one not only could be the win for the Colts, but like it could chaos agent the Jaguars out of the situation if they were to do something like that. But that's where you're at with the Colts right now. And that's why we have to continue talking about the Chiefs. That's why we have to continue talking about the Ravens as well. There might be out in the wind somewhere a wild card opportunity. And while, we're upset, if you're in Philly, upset about the Eagles, most people cheering at the loss of the Chiefs, let's be blunt. Some folks like lamenting what's going on with the Ravens. The Colts are sad, sad, sad. It's
never been more over. I think you wrote it in the column. Yeah. It's over. It's never been more over. You wrote that and walked through on Monday. Right. I go back to the conversation I had with a scout on Sunday afternoon. He said, quote, even before today and the injury, teams have been saying, we aren't going to let Jonathan Taylor beat us. Show us you can, Danny Dimes. And Jones has shown that he can't. The defense has fallen off, especially when they aren't playing with a lead, unquote. And to his point, to the scout's point, the last 3 games against the Chiefs, the Texans, and the Jaguars, Jonathan Taylor has 217 yards and a touchdown. The previous 10 games, 1,139 yards and 15 touchdowns. Here's how good he's been through those first 10 games of the season. He still is the NFL's leading rusher with a 48-yard lead over James Cook. So he's completely fallen off the map. And ever since halftime in Arrowhead, teams have decided, no, Jonathan Taylor, you are not beating us. Right. And James Cook still has yet to catch up.
Still you have to catch up because sometimes Cook catches a swing pass. I think that's part of it. Also, Joe Brady forgets Joe Cook exists for like a quarter at a time. So that's what Taylor is hanging his hat on. But yeah, you're right. This was a Colts team that was running out of chips. Jones was hurt. He was starting to fade a little bit before the injury. Then it was the injury. All the narratives have been flipped. now we're back to who loses their job. What happens next? I can't imagine turning to Shane Steichen and saying you lose your job, but Ballard, I don't know. And of course, we have a wild card because we have a new owner who is the child and grandchild of wackadoodle owners. So whatever you think about Carly Ursay Gordon, if the apple didn't fall too far from the tree, anything is possible.
Right. And here's the big thing. You want to talk about narratives being flipped? Go back 6 weeks. Go back to the trade deadline.
Coach of the year.
We're giving Chris Ballard all of the flowers for going all in, the aggressiveness to go and get Sauce Gardner, flipping 2 first-round picks, propping open a perceived Super Bowl window, right? Now Daniel Jones tears his Achilles. Right? His Achilles is done.
Gardner's hurt.
Sauce Gardner's not out there. He's hurt, and you don't know what you're doing at quarterback because Daniel Jones is on a 1-year deal. You don't know what he's going to be going into next year, and you can't draft a quarterback in 2026. You can't draft a quarterback in 2027 because you don't have the draft capital to go and get one of the best on the board. So you could go from having this aggressiveness, let's go chase it this year, to holy shit, what the hell do we do from here?
Right, and you're giving you're getting the Tom Nix air rifle for Anthony Richardson to make sure you never have to see him again for Christmas because that's where you are with him. It's the picks. I'm like, oh my God, there's like this sub level below everything that's going on in Indianapolis because it's the picks. What a disaster! And a lot of those moves I would have made too. Yeah. I would have made those moves. You can only hit them so badly. I'm just thinking right now. What's gross is there might be a bidding war for the services of Kyler Murray this offseason. This is what the NFL sometimes descends to, where it's like the Colts and the Steelers are all looking at Kyler Murray. It's like, hey, buddy, how's the foot?
The Jets, right? If the Jets aren't high enough to take Mendoza and they don't like anybody else in the draft, or they can't trade up and get Mendoza, Kyler Murray makes sense there. You talk to people around that building. A month ago, there was a sense that he's never playing in a Cardinals uniform again. And it just seems like after this injury, I think you had the line in the column, they sent him to a foot specialist who said the Cardinals don't want to play him anymore.
The foot specialist said you're done. Not foot-wise, just football-wise, or at least with this Cardinals organization, right? So, like, this is where the Colts end up over the course of a week. It's shocking, and that's what really, really sad looks like, folks. I want to do this with you because, like, so obviously, Chiefs pretty much out of the picture here. Eagles in the picture, but like sort of automatic bid. Okay, fine. Ravens fading from the picture. It's reached the point where it's hard to visualize who's going to win the Super Bowl. Because in our brains, you put together the list of Super Bowl teams and you start saying, okay, well, Chiefs, Ravens, Eagles more recently, those are your favorites. They're gone. And then you've got all these goofball teams. So I wanted to do with you, you just have to visualize it. Visualize hoisting the Lombardi Trophy. Make a list of teams that you can visualize. And I'm going to kick this off.
Yeah, you fewer than I do, probably.
I probably have fewer than you because I'm old and my imagination is fused. Okay, and I'll try to do them quickly because when we get to your list, there'll probably be more banter. Okay, let's start in the NFC. Rams, no need to explain that, right?
Yep.
Lions, this is a aggro, we are Sparta, and everyone gets healthy scenario. You can visualize it, right?
Yeah. I can see it. Jameer Gibbs wins the MVP under your scenario.
Yeah. Jameer Gibbs goes ham. Some of the guys get healthy. Dan Campbell's like, there they go. Packers, that doesn't need that much explanation, right? They're flawed, but like, they win these games. They got a lot of things going for them. And the Seahawks, I call this the Ravens style scenario where, so what about Sam Darnold? It's like Sam Darnold does like a Joey Flacco thing and everything else is clicking and I see the Seahawks getting in. That's hard to visualize, but man, they play good football.
The only way they win is if they decide that it's not going to be Jackson Smith and Jigba, that it's going to be Kenneth Walker, and it's going to be Zach Charbonnet, and it's going to be that defense.
They don't run the ball. Yeah. They don't run the ball.
Well, I don't know that I can trust Sam Darnold against playoff caliber defenses.
No, but I can sort. But yeah, where it becomes screen passes and Jackson Smith and big, and their special teams is great. And Shaheed has been getting big runbacks. So that's the visualization. I can see them doing the thing the Ravens did in the past. Okay, that's it. We'll put those on hold. I'm going to do the rest of my list. AFC, Bills. There's no more Chiefs to worry about. So okay, there you go. Here's your chance. Okay, Broncos, barely. Obviously, they're playing really good football. I call it the mile high scenario. home field advantage for playoffs in Mile High. That gives them the boost they need to play this defense and grunge version of football. Okay. The Texans, you'll probably have more to say about that. We've talked about that a little bit. And finally, the Chiefs, because you can 100% visualize. Don't pretend you can't visualize it. Don't pretend, look, you can drink it. Don't pretend you can't imagine sitting there, having the right to write up. It's like, I can hear you now. I talked to some AFC scouts around the league, and what they told me is that, well, when the chips were down, you're drinking right now. When the chips were down, Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes had the capability to overcome their fatigue. I can visualize. You can't visualize it.
I can't visualize it. I saw reality TV on Sunday night. They look cooked. And again, this is coming from the guy who said that the Ravens were cooked in Week 5.
Right.
It was early. It got scary there for a little bit, but I was just early. I wasn't wrong. They don't look,
but I can't visualize them making the Super Bowl. I can imagine them, right? Because again, you have all the other Ravens overlays with this. Okay. We'll let it go. We'll put the Chiefs on the side because, again, that's priors floating around in my head. All right, let's hear your list. We can argue.
I'm going to start with you, the Rams, most dominant team. Yeah. We don't need to explain that. I put the Broncos second, actually. One of the best defenses. Bo Nix isn't making a whole lot of mistakes. They're starting to run the ball really well with RJ Harvey. Mile High effect. Packers peaking at the right time, strangling defenses. Jordan Love the past 3 weeks. Toyotathon, boys and girls. It brings out the best in Jordan Love every year. It's a season of giving. 3 weeks, 607 yards, 7 touchdowns, 1 pick. They haven't even gotten Matthew Golden going or Jaden Reed fully back up to speed yet.
Right. And that's one thing you see for the Packers is like the Reed is back. Golden is back, but also Watson's back. He's kind of playing that role right now. And you can see the things they can do on defense. I know they lost Wyatt to an injury. They're not that banged up on defense. And they sort of have this method. And there's also a Lambeau factor where, you host a playoff game. Maybe you get home field. You probably don't. But you host a playoff game. Oh, the Rams had a little losing streak because they're playing the Lions, whatever. And they play the Seahawks again. They got to go to Lambeau. It's Stafford in the cold. Okay, so I can see that whole Packers thing playing out.
Patriots, explosive playmakers every damn where. Both sides of the ball, opportunistic secondary, explosive receivers. Trevion Henderson is a machine. I'm all in on Drake May. If I had an MVP ballot, I'd probably vote him MVP. You're shaking your head. You're still thinking they're a product of week schedule?
100% product of week schedule. I'll give you May as the MVP, or you put Stafford and May and the MVP, and then you see who wins. I don't have a problem with that right now. I don't see them surviving a gauntlet. They're going to win that division. And look, there's going to be sharks in the wild card. There's going to be sharks in the wild card, starting with the Buffalo Sharks. But okay, let's see what else we got.
All right, pour yourself a drink while you wait for this one, by the way.
It's going to be the Chicago Bears. I got to get one ready. Are you ready?
Get it ready, yeah. The Chicago Bears, 9th most difficult strength of schedule the rest of the way. The Browns, the Niners, the Packers, the Lions. I think they win at least 2 of those based on their formula of running the football. It was a coin flip game. On Sunday, if Caleb Williams doesn't throw that pick in the end zone as time expires, you take that game out to Soldier Field, the rematch. Might get a home game, might get a home playoff game. If you get one, you can kind of run the ball into a.
I hear your voice going up here. You're holding on to the Bears thing, okay? Because you put the Bears number 1 in your power rankings, and you're right. It wasn't like this disaster or anything like that in that game. Certainly, it was very close. It wasn't a coin flip game. It was a coin flip that would have tied it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you needed like a 4th down throw into the end zone to tie it. So let's not call it a coin flip game there. But I could hear you talking yourself into that. That's fine. Let's keep going.
Texans, plus 12 turnover differential. CJ Stroud felt he took a big leap forward in that 4th quarter. Some of the throws in Arrowhead in a hostile environment against a defense that held them to -2 yards in the 3rd quarter. And the Bills, we agree on the Bills. Yeah. Josh Allen is Superman. Get a little bit better on 3rd down. Eliminate the kryptonite. And the defense has decided at the right time, the most important time, and we're going to start punching above our weight, and we're going to create takeaways and put points on the board ourselves. Bills are playing a dominant, complementary brand of football. So I put the Bills on my list as well.
Yeah, and the Bills are the Bills are the Bills. And one of the more likely scenarios is, crap, the Bills are a wild card because of all their mistakes. They go face Pittsburgh again. Yeah, in Pittsburgh. And here comes Aaron Rodgers is talking a good game, and he changed his cast again and everything. And no one believes that that's going to have a different outcome there. The Texans, the big thing with the Texans, their offensive line, while it was terrible, it's usually only really bad, not terrible. And when it's really bad, they can beat anyone because Stroud can make enough throws, and you can see the path if they're on the road, whatever, of just swarming people with defense. You can absolutely see them winning with that, and that's where with some of these other paths along the way, it's like, well, this, and this has to happen. It's like the Texans can play their game, and they can beat the Bills. The Texans can play their game, and they can beat the Chiefs, and that's what's so.
Yeah, and I don't even know. I mean, I took some heat for writing in the column that I thought that the Texans were one of the more complete teams right now, like today, that they're one of the more complete teams out there because the defense is so good. And you're starting to see that when they try to run the ball with Woody Marks, you see the seeds of an identity starting to grow a little bit. And Jaden Higgins is pretty good. And I just, some of those throws that Stroud made, they were Mahomesian. And if you make a couple of those throws and you run the ball with that defense, I don't know how dominant your offense has to be when you're going up against teams like Pittsburgh and teams like the Chargers and, maybe Denver, who's grungy, right?
Right. You get into a grunge fest with them. That's why I don't say complete, because it's like it's a defense that's number 1 or 1.5 or whatever, tied for first. And you have a quarterback who does make those plays when alive. Okay, when not just getting knocked on his ass, getting concussed, whatever. And then you got this offensive line that might be 28th in the league on its best day. And it creates this running game where that running game wasn't an asset until you had a demoralized Chiefs team at the end. And it's like, oh, we just went 4 and out again, and you've got the ball. And now Marks is getting 6 or 7 yards because, we're gassed, we're done, tonight wasn't our night, et cetera. But you don't have to be complete to win a Super Bowl.
Right. I mean, you saw what they did against the Bills, right? I mean, with a backup quarterback, the defense did its thing. Offense made enough plays, especially late, to win. But your defense can carry you against a team like the Bills. Your defense, if you can do it against Buffalo, you can do it against anybody, in my opinion.
Right. So, I mean, I would never put them first. I would say right now in that division, in that conference, it's like the Bills are the team. I can just see it so easily, and then the Broncos are going to have home field advantage and everything. And I've kind of gotten used to this is what it looks like. And their defense is similar to the Texans defense, except that they don't have the second cornerback, et cetera. But then I put the Texans right in there with that visualization. And after that, you look at all those other teams. Steelers, no. Jaguars are not going to sustain anything. If the Ravens get in, they will do some stupid crap to themselves. Patriots, again,
Chargers' offensive line is going to get Justin Herbert murdered.
Going to get murdered. He was playing hurt, and he had a really good game despite being hurt. The Patriots, I simply do not see it. There's just too much nonsense and fluff and too many wins against garbage teams in there. And then, of course, we have the Chiefs, and that's all I was saying. That's all I was saying with the Chiefs. That's all I was saying.
I told you so. Is when it's Bears Patriots in Mobile.
If it's Bears Patriots,
we're in that beer garden on Monday night, and I'm eating some ridiculous waffle chicken cheddar sandwich thing, and you're sipping on stouts or Belgian brews. I told you so. Is going to be epic.
If it is that Super Bowl coming, Patriots Bears, I lost my mind for a second there. And by the way, they changed the schedules around when you see the practices. Practices won't be in the early morning. I will be doing more than sipping. Because it'll have been like the night before. It would have been like the night before that we discovered that happened, and I will have gotten on a plane and I'll have gotten down there. I will not be sipping because I'll need 20 drinks to contextualize that.
We might need to live pod the dinner. We might need to live
pod the dinner in Mobile at that beer garden, the place called the Beer Garden. With all of our colleagues looking at us like we're a couple of freaking morons, because they're all like, yeah, you know what? We have podcasts too, but we're not doing it here because you look like a complete.
It was a circular game this week. What do you got?
What did I put in the John? What did I write? What did I put in the John?
Yeah, I believe you had Packers Broncos. I believe that's the one you circled up.
Yeah, because some of these other ones, it's almost like I have the information I need, so to speak. Chiefs Chargers, I penciled in a Chiefs win on that because this is going to drag on forever. I was kind of leaving Bills Patriots to you. Rams Lions, I kind of feel like I know what the teams are. This one is sure, it's a possible Super Bowl preview. It's a little bit of grunge on grunge, and I want to see how the grunges stack up against each other, against these two teams. Which one did you pick?
I went Bills Patriots. You left the big
Yeah.
one for me, and I decided I was going to take it because it's a validation moment for the Patriots in a way that Buccaneers win had the potential to be, but really hasn't because of the way Tampa Bay finished up. And for the Bills, do you answer the bell in a revenge situation? Do you hang a 50 burger on them?
Right.
Can you hang a 50 burger, or does the defense throw its weight around in New England? I'm excited for that game. Pretty decent slate. Some decent games across the board. Some real stinkers too, but I kind of like Bills Patriots as my circle.
Speaking of stinkers, the Sunday nighter is Vikings Cowboys. You know what that means? It's a go to bed at a reasonable time Sunday. Probably don't have to write that game up in any meaningful way.
This peek behind the curtain to everybody who subscribes to both of our Substacks and listens to the podcast. The very first thing I do on a Monday after I read your column is I look to the next week's schedule. Do I have to write the Sunday night game?
Right.
Do I have to care enough about Sunday night to write it, to text people about it, to look through transcripts of post-game press conferences about, do I give a damn? And the answer for Cowboys Vikings is a decided hell no, we are not writing that game.
We're manifesting like a Prescott injury. That's what we're doing. When we say that, it's just like it'll be fine. Because keep in mind, folks, we're up until the end of that game and everything like that. It's just that I might have a little glass of milk or a little bit of glass of this or whatever. Versus, like you said, it's hectic. Yeah, let me get a transcript. Let me go get some statistics, breakdowns, look at the game book again, go back and watch a replay. I'm going to be not going to bed till 1:30, 1:45, whatever. Yeah. So that's how that really goes. But if we start saying, I can have my beer now because I'm done my main edits, we manifest injuries. So we have to be very careful. We don't want anyone to get hurt, and we don't want to work harder. But mostly we don't want anyone to get hurt.
No, we don't want to have to pour out more of these for our own sanity after the fact, right? Or for season-ending injuries.
You can have more. You can have more. I'm going to be getting in a lift and going down Route 70 soon. But you can have more. You can drink. I'm not going to stop you.
What's coming up on the Two Deep Zone?
I will be doing a Down the Stretch. And by the way, Down the Stretch a couple weeks ago was the Colts feature. Down the Stretch most recently was the Eagles feature. Last year I did
who are you jinxing this time?
Last year I did a Cardinals Down the Stretch feature because you remember at one point the Cardinals were like 8-4. And I did a Down the Stretch on. The jinx is now going to the Pittsburgh Steelers. I figure that's safe because they're jinxed anyway. And I'm doing a little Rams feature later in the week. What do you got coming up?
Going back to my roots a little bit. It's the 3 moves the New York Giants need to make this offseason to turn things around. They're now projected to be a top 2 pick in the NFL draft. We kicked the series off with the Houston Texans last week. That's free and live on the site. The Giants feature will be up in the next couple of days, and we're tying up a bow on a project I've been working on in the last couple of weeks. That'll be up soon as well. So be sure to subscribe to the Two Deep Zone on Substack. Subscribe to Between the Hashmarks on Substack as well.
Absolutely. Can't wait to read that because they don't have to draft a quarterback.
Unless they can get creative.
Unless Dark gets 5 more concussions. We don't want people to get injured. We're not wishing this on anyone.
He's Mike Tanier. Follow him on Blue Sky at Mike Tanier. Subscribe to the Two Deep Zone on Substack. I'm Matt Lombardo. You can check me out on Threads at Matt Lombardo NFL. It's at Matt Lombardo on Blue Sky. Subscribe in the Apple Podcast Store to the Between the Hashmarks podcast. Leave those 5-star ratings and reviews. They really do help grow the show. They boost us up in the algorithm, help people find us a little bit easier. And you subscribe to Between Hashmarks on Substack. Mike, it's been a ton of fun as always. And to those who joined us, close to 65 people in the room, hope you enjoyed our Italian wake to the Super Bowl hopes of the Eagles and the Chiefs. I'm pretty sure we aren't going to look foolish for this come February, but these 2 seasons went off the rails pretty quick.
If it's an Eagles-Chiefs Super Bowl, maybe we can just drink in Mobile too.
Done. Talk to you next week, everybody.